Well, a lot is being talked about cancer sufferers and their treatment here on the Isle of Man and what's going on. Well, back in 2018, I spoke with Heather, and at the time, Heather, who's now joining us, you were then terminally ill with cancer, and that still remains the case. But I know you just featured on Sky TV, on their news channel, about your particular journey, because you're still getting treatment in London, and I thought this would be a good chance to talk to you about that and the wider scope of what's going on. So, first of all, how are you getting on? Because you have to travel off the Isle of Man.
Yes, I do. I'm still having treatment, and I'm still alive and kicking. I think you probably recall, my prognosis was 3 to 9 months back in 2016, and I sort of went for the 9 months and have managed to exceed that by quite a bit, for which I'm very grateful. And yes, my treatment has continued. I have some treatment here. I have injections here. And as has happened with a great many people, the treatment I have here, the injections that help protect my bones, they have now been moved from the every 4 weeks to every 12 weeks. And you'll probably be aware, Paul, that for a lot of people, operations generally are being postponed. But cancer patients, there are operations and treatments being either cancelled or postponed. So in my case, that's now postponed for till 12 weeks, but the immunotherapy that I receive, and I'm very relieved to have had a very positive response to that, has continued. And even in the present climate, where oncologists are having to review and prioritise treatment, etc., and balance that against the risk of contracting COVID-19, that my oncologist had advised that given that I'd had such a very good response to treatment, even setting that against the risks, that it was worth continuing. So that then I was very relieved to hear that, and that was the beginning. That was the week before last, yes. So 2 weeks ago, I was very, very glad to get that news. But then, of course, we went into lockdown. So travelled to London for that treatment, and then suddenly we had the situation here as to needing permission, obviously, well, not so much to get out, but to get back. Our flights had been booked to London City. Well, we got notification that they'd been transferred to Heathrow, and discovered that those flights actually would still be going, but we needed authorisation to return to the island. So that was a travel restriction exemption certificate. And obviously people are really, really busy. These are all new circumstances, new procedures, etc. So we eventually got the travel restriction exemption certificate last Tuesday, just as we were heading out to the airport. So wow. I'm very relieved to get that, because it appeared that we might have to go off island without knowing whether we could actually return. So very grateful for all of those that were involved in actually securing that for us.
I was saying you told your story on Sky News, and on the plane, for instance, hardly anyone on the plane.
No, we arrived at Ronaldsway. That was day 11 for me, because I had been being very careful, and then for 10 days I had been in isolation. I'm one of the people that has had a letter from NHS England pointing out that I am in a high-risk group. For 3 reasons, actually. I'm on 2 different antibody treatments. I have lung cancer. For those 3 reasons, so I'm not high risk 3 times over, really. But we travelled. We got to the airport, and getting into the departure lounge, there were a total of 6 people, 4 of whom were on our flight, and there was another couple who actually knew, and they were travelling to Liverpool also for treatment. And we got on the plane, and there were all 4 of us on the plane. So social distancing, I have to say, wasn't too much of a problem. And we and doing the little bit for Sky TV, my poor husband had to film me going out to the plane, because clearly Sky TV couldn't come out to film this. So we probably looked like, we were travelling for the first time ever, and recording it for posterity. And I think it did sort of probably look fairly unusual to some of the staff there. Anyway, we did that. We had the flight to London, and it was really weird arriving in Heathrow and it being so quiet, and then We've spent a lot of time in London, the theatre, etc. So we've never gone into London and had it so quiet. There wasn't a single traffic jam all the way there. We actually on our journey had to go past Buckingham Palace and Trafalgar Square, not a tourist of course inside, and it was really strange. It'd been actually very difficult to get any accommodation because of course most hotels are closed, only available for key workers, and in some cases, of course, homing those people that have been sleeping on the street. So, I mean, every cloud and all that. So I'm glad for those people. But yes, for us, it's been a little bit of a challenge trying to get accommodation, but we did, and we were pleased about that. So
okay, well, have you look? If people look on Sky website, they'll find links to your story.
Yeah, there's on the Sky website. There's actually there's a little clip about me on that, and then yesterday the full documentary went out, and this was just capturing the lives of people during these very unusual, unprecedented times. So there were a number of people in different circumstances involved. There's a vicar, a self-employed couple, a musician, a head teacher of a school, myself. So yes, it was showing just what life's like under lockdown.
Before we finish, can we talk about people who have just maybe starting the process? I mean, it's incredible. I know you don't mind me saying that you're terminal, yet you got such zest for life, and you're still with us, and everything. You wouldn't even know anything's wrong, but I mean, you've obviously dealt with this in an incredible way. But for people who get that first message, or there's a problem, and now they're sort of treatments or their meetings with doctors, everything could be postponed or pushed back because of what's going on at the hospital. Anything you can say for those sort of people listening and watching today?
Well, I mean, I do absolutely empathise, and I mean, I know also the screening programmes have been stopped, and I appreciate that's a huge amount of worry. I guess there's not an awful lot of reassurance in a way, other than for the fact that, hey, look at my prognosis and I'm still here. So, I mean, there is always hope. And I guess, I'm sure that the NHS, as soon as the situation changes, will try and schedule in people's treatments and operations, etc., as quickly as they can. I understand it is a very difficult balance. Clearly, people with cancer are at high risk for COVID-19. If they get it, then, it's probably going to be pretty horrific. That there's a much greater risk of death, clearly. And I know with this trip to London myself that, there's a balance, isn't there? You don't get the treatment that's prolonged your life so far. I don't even know if it's still working because I couldn't have the scan. So I don't know definitely, because the scan would have put me into two different clinical environments and greater risks. So I've not actually had a scan now for 6 months, but other people will be in a similar situation. So I think it's just just hoping that everybody does as they're told, so that hopefully this situation comes to an end as quickly as possible, and that services for cancer patients can resume. And I know there are an awful lot of charities, etc., and others providing advice and support. I mean, I personally am a patient advocate for the Roy Castle Lung Cancer Foundation, which is how I came to speak to you, excuse me, before, for their Lung Cancer Awareness Month in 2018. And in that role, I sort of help in terms of their awareness raising, fundraising, research projects, development of new leaflets for PET patients, etc. But another role that I sort of play is in terms of supporting other people at the start of their own cancer journeys, and that's sort of extended from just lung cancer to other cancers as well. And I'm always happy to sort of listen. I can maybe empathise a little bit more than maybe immediate family and friends, simply because I'm a cancer patient myself, and so also share some of the hints and tips that I've picked up myself along the way to save them having to find them out for themselves, and maybe they help them. And also for those that have a terminal prognosis like my own, give a little bit of hope. Okay,
and people can get hold of you how? What's the best way?
I'm very happy for people to phone me on 410103, email hjchristian1@icloud.com, and And I obviously am a little bit more limited now. I can't go and have coffee with people or anything like that, but I could certainly video speak and telephone, etc. And I'm very, very happy to do that. I have to say, the Roy Castle Lung Cancer Foundation is for those with lung cancer, is a brilliant charity, hence why I'm prepared to do so much for them, really. And they do, I'm delighted they're also registered here on the Isle of Man now. They've got an office in Onchan. And for lung cancer patients, they provide an awful lot of advice, support, invest in research, and do an awful lot of awareness raising too, because I think you'll recall that I'm a never smoker, and there is that sort of a view out there that really this is a disease that people who smoke develop. Not that I'm suggesting for 1 minute that people who smoke would deserve this horrible disease. Nobody deserves anything like this.